What are famous poker thin value bet hand examples? Have you ever wondered how to maximize your winnings with hands that are not quite strong enough for a big bet? Thin value betting is a strategy that can help you do just that. It involves making a value bet with a hand that is only slightly ahead of your opponent's calling range. The goal is to extract extra chips from weaker hands that will call, even if your hand is not very strong. Let's look at some famous examples of thin value bets and how they work in post-flop play. One classic scenario is when you hold a marginal made hand like second pair or a weak top pair on a board where flush or straight draws have missed. For example, if you raised before the flop with Jack and 10 and the board comes 8, Jack, 3, Queen, and 2 with two missed flush draws, your opponent might think you were on a draw. They may call your thin value bet on the river with weaker made hands like pocket nines or middle pairs. Betting your second pair here can be profitable because opponents often call wider, fearing you missed your draw. Another example involves having top pair with a mediocre kicker. Imagine you have King and Jack on a board of Jack, 9, 4, 2, and 4. If you have been betting consistently on the river, when all possible draws are gone, making a thin value bet can get called by hands like pocket nines or weaker pairs. You beat those hands, even though your kicker is not the best. A third example is when you hold Queen and Jack on the button facing a raise from the cutoff. The flop comes Jack, 7, 4, and your opponent bets. You call with top pair but a mediocre kicker. The turn brings an ace, which scares both players, so you check behind. On the river, a thin value bet of around 2/3 to 3/4 of the pot can extract value from weaker pairs or hands that suspect you are bluffing. In high-level play, thin value bets are often sized carefully. A common strategy is to bet around 2/3 to 3/4 of the pot. This size provides enough incentive for weaker hands to call while still building the pot when you have a slight edge. A practical application of thin value betting is using your betting history and table image to your advantage. If you have been aggressive and representing draws, opponents are more likely to call your thin value bets when those draws miss. On the other hand, if you have been passive, thin value bets may not work as well. Famous thin value bet hand examples include betting second pair with a weak kicker on a board where flush draws missed, expecting calls from weaker made hands. Another example is betting top pair with a mediocre kicker on a dry board after consistent betting, extracting value from weaker pairs. Lastly, making a thin value bet on the river after checking back a scary turn card, sizing the bet to keep weaker hands calling, is also a great tactic. These examples show how thin value bets relying on reading opponents' tendencies, board texture, and betting patterns to gain extra value from hands that are only slightly behind but still ahead of a significant portion of the opponent's range.